Hello and welcome to another episode of the Harvest Season. My name is Al.
And it says blank in the show notes. That just reminds me of Pokemon Gold and Silver. I was one of those guys who named my rival question mark. Hello everyone, my name is Kevin.
And we're here today to talk about cottagecore games. Woo!
Woo!
So the behind the scenes on that is, was it last episode? Neither Johnny nor Bev knew how I traditionally introduce, so I wrote it down. I wrote it down in the show notes so that people always have it now. And the first episode we have it in, Kevin comments on it. So,
yeah,
great.
You know me, I'm going to.
Well, as usual, transcripts for the podcast are available in the show notes and on the website. This episode, we are going to talk about Moonstone Island, the creature collection farming. Like there's only one. One of the creature collecting farming games.
You don't talk about Relegend? Is Relegend one of them? I don't remember.
I can't even remember if that's one of the things.
I don't know. I don't think Relegend exists.
That game smashed together so many buzzwords.
Yep.
Before that, we're going to cover news. It has been a busy news week, so we're going to cover all of that. But first of all, Kevin, what have you been up to?
All right, so first of all, Tears of the Kingdom. I don't remember the last time I talked about it here, but I've played it in the background, kind of on and off. I'm not going for completion, but I am trying to hit every shrine, every light route, and all that stuff. I've already finished the deaths. I finished all the main story beats except for beating Ganon, and I'm over 100 shrines at this point. Nice. So I'm nearing the finish line. I might finish by next week.
You're doing the sensible completionist, not the full completionist.
Exactly. That's correct. And that game is a blast. Of course, needless to say, small stories, spoilers for people who don't want to listen. The fifth sage was a real surprise. Finding out it's a giant robot, and Mineru is a blast to run around with. And I'm so glad I got her early on, relatively.
Yeah, my fun fact about her is that I got her before any of the other sages, because I just happened across her and did it.
That's so wild. That's so cool. My brother Calvin, he didn't do her until like after he beat all the shrines. Oh, wow. So he just like, well, I got this cool robot and I don't have anything to do with it. But yeah, no, Tears of the Kingdom, great game, needless to say. Haven't been having a blast with that. I've picked up Smash again this week. They're releasing some new spirits, because like the 5th anniversary, something like that. Sakurai cannot be stopped from working on that game. But a good reason to pick up again, and Smash is Smash, always fun. Aside from that, the Rainbow Road obligatory shout out here, Rainbow Road Radio. Some of the stuff I've been talking about on that show recently. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, the Game Boy Advance RPG. We did an episode on that, and boy, that game is amazing. I played it when I was younger. It was amazing back then, and I'm glad that it is still fantastic now. Have you played any of the Mario and Luigi games, Al?
I have not. That was the one you covered last week, in the last episode, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I enjoyed listening to that. It was good fun, but it did confirm to me that I probably don't want to play it. I've played a couple of the Paper Mario games, and I've played was the Mario RPG last year, and I've come to the conclusion that I don't think I like turn-based battles anymore, and that's fine. But for that reason, I suspect I wouldn't like this game, because that's a huge part of the game, right?
It is. Right, but like one of the joys, in my opinion, where it succeeds is it's very dynamic, even for a turn-based game, because of the the counters and the timing and jumping things. It's still repetitive actions.
So I understand that, but actually I think that makes it worse for me because it's not turn-based battling then, right? Like it's turn-based with a little bit of real time.
Yeah.
So, because I had that in Mario RPG as well, they did that. It's like, oh, if you press the button at the right time, it increases your attack, or if you press it at the right time, you take 0 damage. And it's like, okay, well, I need to do that then. And there are so many battles where you basically can't win it unless you do, or you obviously over level to a ridiculous degree, unless you do those things.
Right.
And to me, it just it just makes it annoying because it's like, I can't just do a turn-based battle. It's turn-based battle, but I also have to have the right timing, which to me takes away the advantage of the turn-based battles. So I understand why people would like that, but for me, it doesn't. It actually makes it worse.
Yeah. I get that, right? Because, one of the advantages of turn-based battles is definitely turn your brain off sort of thing. I can see that. But regardless, the game's fantastic. It's hilarious. It's amazing. Go listen to that episode of Rainbow Road Radio if you guys haven't heard it, and check out that game if you guys haven't played it. It's still, or 20, whatever, however many years it's been.
20.
No, I don't want it to
No, it was definitely a fun listen to hear you two talk about it, even if I know I'm not going to play it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, now talking about the episode that will be out when this episode of Harvest Season is out. I watched something called The King of Kong. Have you heard of this at all, Al?
No, I thought you were just saying it and saying King Kong in a funny way. This is like an actual.
Nope.
I have not.
Yep.
What is this?
Okay, so The King of Kong is a documentary from like 2007, I believe it is. It's not super high production. It's not like a big Hollywood movie release. It was directed by Seth Gordon, who ended up becoming a successful big Hollywood director because of this documentary, actually. But it is a smaller project. It is a documentary about how should I describe this? A competition of sorts a rivalry, let's say, between a man named Billy Mitchell and a man named Steve Wiebe, over getting the world record in Donkey Kong, the original arcade game. Right? And so the way this documentary is filmed and presented, it's a very underdog story because Billy Mitchell is a world champ and record holder in like 10 different games like Pac-Man, Mrs. Pac-Man, Donkey Kong Jr., etc., right? And then Steve Weeby's just like this teacher who's just a dad, and all of a sudden he comes and gets this record, and there's a lot of drama involved because Billy Mitchell is closely associated with the it's called Twin Galaxies, the group that essentially is the authority on the records at that time of these types of arcade games. So, like, for instance, one of Weeby's early record attempts, he sent in a tape, and they didn't accept it because they said they needed to see it in person, yada yada. And so he goes in person, creates a new record, but then Billy Mitchell sends in a different tape, and that one gets accepted because he's Billy Mitchell. And so there's a lot of back and forth and drama. And it's a good watch. I recommend it to people who haven't seen it. But it's interesting because the story does not end there. We watched some follow-up documentary, and actually there's been some court cases in the news. That's why we kind of brought it up now. So I won't go too much into detail over it. You guys can listen to the episode over at Rainbow Road Radio if you want to hear the whole story. But long story short, Billy Mitchell is a awful person who wants to be number one and will stop at nothing and step on everyone and backstab and control the narrative to do so. That much you can easily see in the original King of Kong documentary, so that's not a shocker. But seeing the extent of how that goes, it's a wild story. So yeah, again, that is called King of Kong. That's the original documentary, but there is like even follow-up documentaries made by more amateurs and stuff investigating more about the story. So it is a wild tale over several decades.
Interesting.
Yep. But that's what I've been up to. What about you, Al? What's going on?
Yeah, just before that, I noticed that the Seth Gordon, the director, he did the 2017 Baywatch film as well.
Yeah, and he did Horrible Bosses, that comedy with.
So like,
I don't remember.
Yeah, when you say he's done Hollywood stuff, he's done proper big Hollywood stuff as well.
Yeah,
right. Like not just.
Yep. And King of Kong was kind of his breakthrough. Everyone took notice, and
Interesting. Well, what have I been up to? I have obviously been playing Moonstone Island quite a bit the last couple of weeks.
I played a good bit too. I didn't play it the last week, to be honest.
Yeah, well, the behind the scenes stuff is we were meant to do this episode 2 weeks ago, and I messaged Kevin on this Friday and said, "Can we delay the episode because I've played like 10 minutes of the game." I just had not. We'll get into that with the stuff, but I just had not managed to push myself to properly play the game. So I have now played a decent chunk of the game. So.
We can talk about it.
We'll actually talk about it. I've also been trying to finish up Hollow Knight as well, so I managed to get back into it, and I've defeated a big chunk of the bosses, and I think I've got 2 bosses left to go. So I'm getting there, but we're getting pretty difficult.
Okay.
Getting pretty difficult.
I bet. Oh my gosh, I've seen some of those later bosses. Jeez Louise, that's some nutty stuff. Hats off to you, Hollow Knight people.
Yeah, it's interesting because the one I'm currently on is like, it's not, the actual individual boss isn't difficult, but the difficulty of it is there are 6 of them, and you have to defeat like all of them before gauntlet. And they're all and they can do up to 2 at a time, so like doing one of them at a time would probably be reasonably easy. I probably would have done it by now, but the problem is then they suddenly go, oh, and here's a second one you have to deal with at the same time, so you're like dodging one, but as you dodge one the other one gets you, and you're like, no. So it's like there's so many times where it's like I would have definitely beaten it if it weren't for the fact that I had 2 at a time and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty, it's interesting how you can have that, right? Like it's not a very difficult, they're not difficult bosses, but putting them all together like that makes it very difficult. So yeah, but it's been good fun. I think I've managed to get like 4 of them. I think I got onto the last 2, so I got pretty close that time, frustratingly close.
Dang!
But we'll get there soon. We'll get there soon. So yeah, no, it's really good fun. I'm definitely at the point in that game though where I do not want to explore anymore. I do not want to backtrack anymore. Like I have done all of that. I just want to get to the last boss and kill him and be done with it and get on to the next game when it comes out. Right? There becomes a point with those games where you're like, I'm done exploring, thanks. And the problem is obviously Metroidvanias. The whole point of them is exploring and backtracking, so they don't have a lot of fast travel. There is some, but it's not a lot of it. So you still have to do a lot of traversal of the map to get from boss to boss.
Yeah, I get that. And Hollow Knight's a special case because the DLC is just stuck in there. Like you can't tell where the DLC is at a glance, right? There's no DLC menu option. Like you're doing over 100%.
Yeah, I haven't even paid attention to what I'm doing there. I suspect at this point I'm going for the like final main boss, and if I've done any of the DLC stuff then fine, but I don't think I'm gonna like focus on any of that.
Yeah, no, yeah, that makes sense. It's a lot. It's a big game.
Super fun.
It's off to you.
All right, awesome. Well, that's what we've been up to. Let's talk about some news. So first of all, we have just a couple small things about Spells and Secrets. So their Xbox version is out now, and they have also said that they are not happy with the Switch version, and they've fired their porting team, and they've got a new porting team for the Switch version.
Oh, snap.
The actual wording is, we ourselves are incredibly unhappy with the Nintendo Switch version. This situation is incredibly frustrating for us. To achieve the best possible results, we've decided to bring a new porting team on board. We would like to re-evaluate the source code and are currently waiting for feedback on the current status of the source code. While we can't make any concrete promises at this moment, we remain optimistic about making positive progress.
Okay, well, I mean, hey, I salute them for wanting to improve the quality of Switch ports. Aren't always the best, so, you know, I salute that for sure.
One Lonely Outpost have posted a post.
Yeah.
They have updated us on what they're working on, and they have teased a UI overhaul. So the whole UI is getting an overhaul, and they've posted
That's
some
a big
screenshots.
one. Probably respectable. And played it, obviously. UI is a very critical design element.
Yeah, I mean, I've not played the game, so looking at the two, I'm like, I don't have an opinion on which I prefer because I've not experienced them properly, but they definitely, it feels like it's of the same style, so it doesn't feel completely different, but it looks like
right, it's not like visually aesthetically.
Exactly.
It's more functional.
It's all functional stuff, yeah, so they're making it look, I suspect it's like UX-based stuff and things like their newest update, they've got the patch notes for there as well, but like it's all bug fixes and small changes. So the link to that will be in the show notes as well. Orange Season. Now, this is an incredible patch note. So this is version 0.11, 0.11. And the patch note starts off with narrative. Added a main story. And I am absolutely fascinated by this. Like, does this mean there was no main story, or is this additional main story? I mean, it says after settling in Orangetown, your new life seems to be going fine. However, the previous owner of your farm returns, and he wants it back.
Yeah.
On this journey to guarantee your future, your new life will mingle with a cast of strange, friendly, and conflicting personalities. What kind of people will you and them be at the end? So this sounds to me like the game up till this point was like the daily farming aspect of things, but without like an overarching story. Which is an interesting way to go about it.
Yeah. Spoilers, Moonstone Island could use an update like this. That's all I want to say. But it is funny to read. Just added a story. that's a good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I
note for that.
Neither of us have played it, so I don't think we have. But there you go. If you've been playing the game and you're like, this game could do with story, well, have I got good news for you? Speaking of having good news for you, specifically Kevin, I've got good news for you.
I just saw the news.
Wildflowers. The Yuri's Salon. I think it's Yuri. Do you think it's Yuri?
Yep, I think so. Hold on, I'm listening right now. It's in the trailer. Okay. Yeah, it's Yuri. Okay.
Yuri's Salon update is out today. If you're listening to this on the release date, so 31st of January, and it brings a whole new romanceable character, and the salon that I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
I haven't actually seen anything about pronouns,
so.
But I'm assuming she.
Yeah. So that's.
This is how you do updates, right? You go, hey, by the way, there was a tease, right? So they showed a tease of the outline of the character, and said someone new is moving to Fairhaven, and then posted that yes, they are romanceable. And then the next day they were like, oh yeah, so the release is coming next Wednesday. Cheers. Yep, good release info.
Yep, good reveal.
Reveal, that's the word I'm looking for.
It's first of all, adding a new character, that's a big deal in any farming game.
Especially Wildflowers, because it's very character based.
Yep, very, very character driven, right? Like the setting is pretty small, so they compensated that by doing a lot of interactions with the characters. So that is interesting to see. Also, like, interesting to see added at this point, right? Because, like, in my save file, I'm already married to Ray. I'm not going to end that for Yuri. Sorry, Yuri. I'm sure you're fine, but, you know.
I love how you're not even saying Wesley. You're just saying Ray.
That's the reason I played the game, I'll be honest. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful there will be other stuff sneaked in. I can't wait to play it. I'll fire up Wildflowers again. Great excuse to do that again. One thing. Oh gosh, so it's a salon, right? So you can redo I was about to say, yeah, Terry. Her name is Terry. Tara's hair. I was about to say Valerie. I'm mixing those two up now.
Quite a large selection of hairstyles. It
but
looks like. And hair
I feel
colors.
almost uncomfortable. I feel so almost uncomfortable because I'm so used to that hairstyle. It's so iconic for the character, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yes, it's not
it's
like
the look,
it's
and-
not like a game where you have a character customizer, because the whole point is it's Tara's story and you're playing as Tara.
Right.
So like this is the.
Yep.
I mean, can you change clothes? You can change clothes,
yes.
right? So there is at least some level of customization there. So
Yeah.
and it's not like it doesn't make sense to be able to change your hair. Like people change their hair. That's a thing that happens.
Yeah.
But I understand. I understand your concern.
No, it makes sense. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. I'm just uncomfortable with the change. Tara's blonde. I don't like it. But that said, hey, Wildflowers in the news again. I'm very happy. Happy day. And boy, that's dropping soon. I like Shadow Drop like that. Good stuff. Wildflowers.
Yeah. Good thing we're doing this episode before it comes out. Awesome detail. We don't have any like more details, but if we get them, we'll put them in if there's anything else coming in.
Yeah.
And it does. I actually didn't check. Does it say? I think it's a free update. I haven't seen anything about it.
I would assume so. Yeah, they have not done anything paid as of yet,
and they're calling it an update. They're saying the Wildflowers 4th update, Yuri's still on, is coming next. I think that implies that it's free.
Yeah, I think so too.
Hey, look, Relegend. This is just a really small thing to say that they have said that they're going to do more updates. That's it.
They're going to add more buzzwords into the game.
They've said that, they got some money to work on the game more, so they're going to do that. That's it. That's literally it. There was a bug fix update recently as well.
I guess.
I love some of these bugs in games. Ensure the player's character does not pass through the map when jumping off their Magnus near the chest in the Goblin's Resort in the desert biome. That is so specific.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay, what a Relegend, the game that took 8 bajillion years to come out and still going on, apparently.
The interesting thing is, I looked at the comments on Steam, and they're all positive. It's like unexpected but not unwelcomed, surprising but fantastic news, great news. Like there's loads of like actual, and this is the first time I've seen like positive comments on anything for Relegend for like 5 years.
Okay. Well, I mean, coming out was a good first step, right? Making positive comments, true. Finally.
That's true.
But like, look, all right, this is anecdotal. It's just my experience. I don't know anyone who's played the game, so
Does anyone?
Is it all just fake town and just the fake comment section populated by the devs? I don't know. It's possible. I'm just putting it out there. Did the game come out? I don't have confirmation yet.
They do. There is one comment on it which is just give them guns. So I think I know where that person's. I think I know where that person's mind is right now.
I wonder where. Did I tell you, or do you know why they added guns in Power World?
That they'd said that they'd added it because they wanted it to be big in America, basically, right?
Yeah.
Which is like one of those things where it's like, oh no, but also yeah.
They're not wrong, right? Like that's the reaction, like, oh, but they're not wrong.
Yeah. My Time at Sandrock, they've got some plushies. So if you really love them My Time at Sandrock characters, they have.
Wait, they're the characters? They're not creatures or anything?
They're the characters, Logan and Fang. Of course you don't. You've not played the game. They've also got some figurines.
Fang looks cool, I guess. I want a Terra Wild plush. Where's that?
Not on the My Time at Sandrock page. Speaking of plushies, Paleo Pines teasing some plushies.
What?
Not out yet, but they teased a little foot of a plushie.
Littlefoot.
A little foot and a back covered in spikes.
Littlefoot. I'm so excited. I wonder what dinosaurs can't tell based off. I'm excited. The dinosaurs are will very likely get one of them.
Oh, apparently, if you go on their link tree, they've already leaked what it is. It's a carrot Anky. Anky, is it an Ankylosaurus? Sorry, Ankylosaurus.
Oh yeah, probably
Ankylosaurus.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's
coming soon. I love that. It's like they've got the link basically with the image, not the image of the actual plush, but the image of what it is, and you click through it, and it's like, campaign launches in 4 days and 19 hours.
Yep, that's makeshift. So that means it's going to be a limited time plush thing. So keep your eyes on.
Launches on Thursday.
Your dinosaur.
Chia, the game based on New Caledonia, have released a cool new update, or are going to release a cool new update in March, which gives you I guess let's go the context of this game. So this game is an exploration-y type game, but one of the big features of the game is you can jump into nature items, so animals and plants and stuff like that. You can it's called soul jumping, and you have like a certain, as you play the game, you like build up your soul meter, and you can use that to jump into animals and stuff like that. They are adding in the infinite soul meter. So they say this comfort setting allows you to soul jump to your heart's content without worrying about your meter depleting. Be a bird forever, or a coconut, or anything for that matter. We're happy. So if you like, this feels like a great, I mean, they say it's not suggested for your first playthrough of the game.
Sure.
But you do what you want. They've not stopped it. Like, you can do it straight away. And if you just want to jump in a bird and fly around this map forever, you can do that. And I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Minecraft creative mode.
Yeah. Yeah. Spirit Tea. Have added item stacking in your bag.
That feels like that should have been addressed a while ago. The tone of that defeat.
I really wanted to like this. And it's good in some ways, but yeah, like there's a lot of quality of life things that it doesn't have that a lot of games have that makes me struggle to enjoy it as much. This was one of them, so they have removed it now, but I don't know if I'm going to go back to it or not.
Just wait for 2.0. Whatever that means.
They've also listed a bunch of stuff that they're going to add. If you are enjoying the game, there you go. You can go look at the list of things they're adding.
Speaking of enjoying games, Bev and Johnny enjoyed Stardew in last week's episode. It was a great listen, good episode. And I think some guy out there named Concerned Ape saw that. I was like, oh, well, if harvest season reached 1.5, we can't have them staying current. So he drops the news. 1.6 is on its way, baby.
Yeah, I mean, so, like, there's not actually much news in this because we already knew it was coming. We already knew there was stuff in it. But he says 1.6 ended up being a little larger in scope than originally planned.
A little larger with Concerned Ape could mean a whole game's worth of updates.
Yeah, who knows what on earth is happening here. He says, this is the key bit here, I'm done adding major new content to it now, and it's in a bug fixing and polishing phase until it's ready for release. Thanks for your patience. It'll be fun to see everyone play. He does say in the comments that it should come out. He says absolutely will come out in 2024. It will come to PC first. There shouldn't be a big delay between PC and console/mobile. I think with the 1.5 update, it was a 2-month delay between Steam and Switch, which is not too bad. So
right.
The mobile one was the one that I think it was like 3 years to get it to come to mobile. So hopefully that will be faster. He does say it will be fine to play this on an old save, but I'd probably recommend a new save just to experience everything in context. Otherwise, you'll unlock a bunch of stuff right away when you load up your save. And I read that and went, great, that's much quicker to cover all the new content for the episode. So,
do we have any idea what it's about? Like,
there has been a bunch of things that he listed on where is a new festival, which I think we're pretty convinced now that's the New Year festival 2 new mini festivals, new late game content which expands on each of the skill areas, new items and crafting recipes. Oh, there's a totem there, so presumably another warp totem of some kind or something like that. And what looks like a quiver, as in for like archery.
Oh, that's...
Joja alternatives to some of the endgame quests, 100+ new lines of dialogue, winter outfits for the villagers, new type of reward for completing billboard requests, support for 8-player multiplayer on PC, and
that's wild.
And I love right at the end he puts new farm type. Just casually adding that at the end of this massive list. Oh yeah, there's going to be a new farm as well.
I'm gonna have it.
I wouldn't be concerned about him. He's fine. He's got it. He's got a lot of money.
I'm just concerned what he's doing to it. Jeez. I can't. But hey, 8-player farm. We can finally have all the Harvest Season hosts on one episode. Live commentary as he's starting to farm.
Oh dear. Yeah. So anyway, it's coming this year, and it's feature complete. So hopefully it's going to end up releasing like during the month in the summer when I'm away, isn't it?
Of course it is.
All right. So you might think that's all the news. That's not all the news. We've got 4 new games as well to talk about.
Oh my God.
Oh yes. So first of all, we have Southfield. The little blurb for this one is weird farming meets silly physics in Southfield. Combine chaotic crops with unpredictable effects. Build your dream farmstead and experiment with playful machinery. Wobble your way around an ever-changing island solo or with up to 3 friends and unearth its secrets. Now, we quite often say there are too many farming games and they don't do interesting things.
That's true.
This game heard us say
said,
that.
What if we do the exact opposite?
Yeah. So this I love. I need to play this game.
All right. I do too. Okay, I'm going to start with the big hook, and that's the main character. It's a big blue gumdrop head looking blob man with big eyes, and that's kind of it. He is humanoid. He has arms and legs and a head with eyes and a little Pikmin type leaf on top, just a little one, little sprout.
Pretty generic.
He's big. Yeah. But he's big and cartoony, and the way he runs around, his dynamic proportions and style fit in very much with the quote-unquote weird, silly physics.
Yes.
It's great. He does like big bounces, spins, or he does like full-on tornado axe chops. He rolls around in a ball at one.
Yep.
Armadillo style.
He rides on a quad bike.
He does.
You got quad bikes in this game.
Yep. He's chopping down trees. The trees are actually falling, not just poof, here's your logs. They're timbering over.
There's an electric chicken that you're chasing and you get electrocuted by. You can throw an axe to cut down fruit.
You can get frozen into ice cubes. You can throw one of your fellow blob people full on hurricane spins, rocks. There's a fruit growing to gigantic proportions. I don't know why.
The machinery looks fun.
Yeah, so this is interesting because there's conveyor belts and things presumably for automatic automatizing things and whatnot. But because of the weird effects, they're just this physics, the like fruits and crops are just bouncing on the conveyors.
And it's a bunch of the machinery that seems to be like cannons as well. So it's like leaning into I love everything about this. This is fantastic. I need this game.
It's so good, right? And like even and there's crafting, you can build a house and other stuff. There's your plots and your farms, but like every crop, I don't think I've seen an actual real crop in this game. There's some that look like big kind of strawberry or mushroom. It's big, it's cartoony, it's colorful, it's fun. Southfield looks amazing.
There's also some building, so you could like kind of, I guess, Fortnite-esque type building, right? You've got your wall, you put up your wall and you put up your roof, properly designing your house how you want.
I'm very excited. We don't have a date on it, but boy, I'm keeping my eye out on this one.
Yep, this one is coming soon, and as of now, I only see information about it coming to Steam on Windows. Yep. This one's going on the list. I'm definitely playing this one.
Yep.
Next, we have Sugar Dew Island.
Oh boy. Now,
so
they're coming out swinging with that name.
So the name is terrible, right? Let's just get out of the way. It's Stardew Valley versus Coral Island, right? Like it's just like where is all the what's with the name? It's bad. It's bad.
Island's overdone, but at least it's an actual thing, right? I'm going to put my foot down, draw the line in the sand. I don't think any farming game should ever have the "do" in its name ever again. just don't try.
Whatever it is a bad name, right? Just whatever. One of the comments on YouTube is, one might consider this a copy of Stardew. Shut up. So, one interesting thing, just before we actually talk about the game, is I feel like this has been shared. It's been advertised on every single Kickstarter game update I have seen in the last week.
I saw it on a link on one of the earlier news article links I clicked on.
Every single one of them, they seem to be talking about this. I am fascinated by this. Like, what is the deal behind this game?
Raid Shadow Legends.
So let's do the usual blurb. In this cozy farming game, you have to run your own farm shop, take care of your animals on your farm, sell your goods to the cute forest folk, upgrade the island, and fulfill small orders from the Harmony Tree to fill the island with life again. Nothing about this seems unique. Comparing to the previous one, this just looks like it's a farming game. Hey, look, it's a Harvest Moon.
Yep. The one, oh gosh, even the quote-unquote forest folk just look like harvest sprites. The one thing I will say, one thing I've wanted is to run the shop, the shipping bin. That's it. I don't know if this game will do it well because the shop looks quite small.
This is the thing about those is so Ooblets had a way to do that, and there's been a couple of other games where there's been a little bit of it, and it always just feels to me like it's just a really inefficient way of selling things, right? Because you have to go in and you put a few things out in the shop, and then you have to like. They either implement like a haggling thing, in which case I always feel like I'm not getting as much as I could, or it just ends up being, why can't I just throw these in the shipping box, right? Like I don't feel like any of them have ever done it well, and I'm not sure I trust this either.
I don't think so. Not what I'm looking, because thinking farms, like you're growing huge amounts of crops all in bulk and stuff like that. I don't know, but yeah, the shop doesn't, if that's the add more to that, because otherwise, boy, this, much like its name, takes after a lot of other games. Boy, look, Studio Ghibli has amazing art stuff, but boy, am I tired of seeing that aesthetic in these games.
Yeah, it's not like it looks bad or anything, but it's not.
No,
and the game doesn't actually look like the trailer, right? The trailer is completely like just random animated stuff. Well, no, it does have some of the gameplay, but like it starts off with that
presumably
style.
We're not 100% sure.
It's a completely different style than the suspect actually.
Yeah, true.
It looks fine. It's not like it looks bad.
Yeah,
but nothing about it.
It just,
especially comparing it to what we just talked about, nothing about this excites me.
Yeah, no, it looks fine, but not bringing anything new to the table. It's a tough market. Got to do a bit more to stand out.
Anyway, the Kickstarter is launching soon. Apparently, Steam says its planned release is Q2 this year. Presumably that's early access, but it doesn't say on Steam that it's going to be early access. I'm assuming they aren't doing a Kickstarter to then release the full version in a matter of months. You would think not, but who knows? I noticed it's Roca Play. They are they a publisher or are they a developer? I'm not actually sure. They look to be both, but they did Spells and Secrets. They've done Solar Punk, and they did what was that one? There was another one that was like an island-based one where you were like a pirate and you crashed into the island. And no, I don't mean And I realized that sounds exactly like the start of Dragon Quest Builders 2. That's not what I mean.
Yeah, I don't. Lose Lagoon? Castaway Paradise?
Castaway Paradise. No, that's not the one I was meaning. But that is another one that they've done.
Stranded
Sails. Yes, there we go. They did Stranded Sails.
Oh my gosh, they actually have a game called Harvest Life. Oh my goodness.
So they did Beasties as well, which was the one that went on Kickstarter and then they cancelled the Kickstarter. And I don't know, it's a weird company. They have such an interesting mix of things that become really popular and things that are just really weird. Like Spells and Secrets has very positive reviews. It's like 80% positive reviews and then Beasties has 50% rating. And you're just like, that is such a big difference. They also have Super Dungeon Maker, which is like a Zelda style dungeon Mario Maker type thing, which has very positive reviews. It's 84% positive. And Stranded Sails was it was a game.
It was a game. That feels like a few of these you could say about.
Yeah, so like you never quite know what you're getting out of Rocaplay. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Solarpunk hasn't even come out yet. Although it looks like they're just publishing it, they aren't. So I don't. Yeah,
it's a game.
There's a lot of stuff. I'm not particularly excited about this one, but it is coming to Steam on Windows, Switch, PlayStation, and maybe Xbox. I don't know whether that will be a stretch goal, but it says Xbox ? So next we have Sun-Kissed City. Sun-Kissed City is a life sim set in an upbeat, sun-kissed seaside metropolis full of funky vibes and quirky characters. Stake out your new life in the city, tending to DIY gardens, learning new skills, and making lifelong friends, and help bring life back to its once vibrant streets.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. I can't tell if this game is good, looks good or bad.
So, well, let's just put it. It is almost exactly the Stardew style, right? Like,
yeah.
Imagine Stardew. It's that. Like it looks like that, but it's based in a city, not a small village. Like every single thing I see, it just looks. You could tell me this was a Stardew and I'd go, oh, they changed the UI at some point. Like, that's what I would do, right? Like, the keg looks almost identical and the cheese press looks very similar and, like, these things. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, Stardew did very well.
Yep.
But I feel like, what is this doing that would make me play it rather than Stardew?
And the quirky character... whatever, they don't seem particular.
Look, characters are hard to do well.
They are.
And I the problem is that I don't think you can do I don't think many people could do Stardew. And I think many people could make Stardew but not as well. And that's what this strikes me at.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it.
It doesn't look bad, but I'm really fascinated as to why I would want to play this rather than Stardew. Is the story really good? Are the characters really good? That's what I'd probably be looking for.
Yeah, because you're right. Like, I see absolutely nothing of this quote-unquote city setting that differentiates it, aside from having asphalt.
Yeah, yeah.
Setting.
And some buildings that look run down.
Yep.
There's a ramen place.
Yep, that's kind of it. I don't see anything. I see fishing. There's some type of gardening / farming. You even carry the items over your head, a la Stardew.
Yeah, like the last game, someone said it looks like a copy of Stardew. Now this looks like a copy of Stardew, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to like harp on it too much because like I'm sure it will be fun to play, and I don't want to put people down. And I hope
it doesn't look bad, but
they're successful. But I don't think I want to play this.
It's not standing out right, and again, this is the cottage core farming space. Getting all buzzwordy here, like it's flooded with Stardew. It's bad. So you're gonna put one out. You really need Roots of Pacha. Do it in the Stone Age. Okay, that's something different, and it mechanically affects it. Right, you have mammoth and stuff. Like, it's appropriate. But here in the city, I'm really just not seeing anything.
Yeah.
And again, this is just based off a handful of screenshots. So, I could be speaking a bit too early, but I'm just not seeing anything.
So the interesting thing is, this is this developer's second game. Their first game came out in 2016, with its last update coming out in 2018. So I feel like they finished off that game, they saw Stardew Valley, and they've been working on that since then.
Okay.
Because like Stardew got really popular in 2017. So like just as they were finishing off their last update.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. Because and their first game is wildly different. It's called Wasted. It's a post-apocalyptic pub crawler. It's in 3D and it's a very wild looking game.
That looks more interesting to me.
It does, absolutely, 1000%. Not cottagecore at all, but different game. It looks something unique.
Anyway, it's there. It's coming to Steam on all the platforms. So we'll see, I guess. And the final one is Abyss New Dawn. Names? Really? Names again? Right? Like, is this...
Why did it have to be so bad in this space?
Abyss
Why?
It's just games in general. But this is the thing. Why is it Abyss New Dawn? This makes it sound like it's a second Abyss game, right? But also, secondly, this describes itself as a cozy game. Why is it called Abyss?
Yeah. I watched the trailer. I see nothing.
There's no abyss.
That implies abyss. There's nothing that. I guess there's cliff thing. That's all I see. I see nothing. Because abyss, you think dark, scary, deep thing. So there's nothing like that.
Yeah, it makes it sound like it's that thing that people do with farming games, which is like, oh, it's a farming game, but there's a dark secret. But I don't see anything about that here.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. I will tell you what secret. Halfway through the trailer, there's bloody dinosaurs in this game?
So right, okay. Well, let's get there, right? Okay, so let's do the blurb as usual. Dive into the enchanting world of Abyss New Dawn, a cozy game that combines farming, town building. Whoa, calm down there. An adventure in which you explore the ancient wonders with many mysterious abyss floors, alone or with your friends. First of all, right, this is the thing that people do with farming games. They go, it combines farming and town building. It's like every game does that now. It's like, oh, this is
sometimes you gotta push the envelope, Al.
It's a cross between Stardew and Animal Crossing. Have you ever thought that might be a good idea? Like, it's like, yeah, I get what you're trying to put across, right? And I know that we're at that point in the cycle of games where all of these games are all coming out at the same time. So it feels like everything is that game. I get it, whatever. Yep. But like, word it differently. Just like it's a farming town builder is not unique. So like, just let it happen, whatever. Right. So there's a lot of things happening in this trailer, in this game. So
See, it's funny because you're right, the blurb is very generic and 8 different buzzwords that we see all the time. But the game itself, I think, actually looks fine because, first of all, it's full 3D, right? We're not doing your Stardew pixel style. The art style is maybe nothing, not breaking any molds here, but it looks nice enough. It looks pleasant. There's enemies that you're fighting with, combat with swords. Again, all kind of real time here.
It seems the initial enemies are like it strike me as let's do Stardew but 3D, right? You've got the goos and you're fighting them in the same sort of way you do in Stardew.
Sure. Yeah, right, exactly. That's a good way.
But then we get into the abyss floors, which is, I guess, where the name comes from. And it seems to be that these the like portals to other dimensions, and there's these stone creatures, and then there's dinosaurs, and you have a glider, and
you can ride the dinosaurs. You can help them farm, a la Paleo Pines, or they help you farm.
Maybe
you can just ride on one on water.
This is doing a lot.
There's a lot going on. They look good. I won't lie. They've caught my attention with that alone. Also, and then at the end we get like crops of pumpkin and mushrooms with faces. I don't know why we've got crops with faces, but okay.
This game is doing something for me.
Yeah, me too. I mean, obviously dinosaurs.
Oh, they looked kind of oobletsy. I finally
do.
got to those
Yeah,
crops
they
at the
do.
end. Yeah, why do they have faces?
I
They
don't
are
know.
just
There's
it's just a
nothing explained
pumpkin
about
and a
that.
mushroom, a bunch of different
You don't
mushrooms with faces.
you don't see them anywhere else in the trailer, so you have no idea if those are
What?
some kind of NPCs or you get to grow mushroom people. I'd have no idea what's going on.
And there's some kind of like flying creature behind them, and then there's farm animals, which makes sense. But what is this random flying? Do you think the flying creature is like a ball with wings?
It looks kind of like a Zelda fairy, kind of. But
yeah, kind of. But
yeah, the shape. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on here. Also, you're playing as a little cat.
That's not the weirdest thing about this game.
No, it's not. it's not real. It's really not.
In Abyss, you can evolve certain mushrooms and crops into pets through the evolution altar. You are Frankensteining vegetables.
Ah, yeah. I'm down for that.
A player can only carry one pet, disappointing, but the pet will increase your inventory by 10 slots. Interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
The pet can take damage and die when it runs out of health. Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
If you pick up a pet's soul after it dies,
Oh my gosh, okay.
you can revive it at the central altar.
Okay, whoa. Didn't expect soul transfers, okay.
Look, this game is at least intriguing me, right? The previous two games I look at and go, whatever. The first game I went, I need to play this. This one I'm going, I feel like I need to play this purely because I'm fascinated by what's happening here. And it's like it's a combination of pretty bog standard farming, which looks fine, I guess, but is not particularly interesting. And I'm sorry, you can take a pumpkin and put a soul into it and have it as your pet, and then it can die. You can harvest its soul and revive it. Like, and
then there's full-size dinosaurs.
Yeah, what? So random.
Ones. It's so big. That Brachiosaurus is huge. I don't.
The crop automation looks like it could be good. They've got sprinklers.
Oh, the sprinklers look great. They're tall and they spin and sprinkle water.
They are super intimidating. It's like it's none of these like teeny tiny little thing on the ground. These look like you would get a shower if you went near them.
Yeah, no, that's like full professional farm grade sprinklers. It's great.
Some NPCs are locked in the dungeon and you need to rescue them.
Oh, that's fun.
After you rescue them, they will be able to request to live and work in your village. Yeah.
This is a Kickstarter, right? We got dear. They got a ways to go. They have 27 days. They're only at about 1,400 USD out of 35,000.
Yeah, this isn't getting
I
funded.
wish you luck, Abyss New Dawn. I want to see you succeed and become a thing. I feel like you could do your marketing a little better because you got some stuff here.
Yeah, KickTrack is not projecting that they're going to hit the goal.
I hope it does. It looks cool. They have lofty ambitions. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm not. I would. Yeah, I'm tempted.
Gosh. I'm looking at Kickstarter exclusive rewards. One of them is the legendary Axe of Hell. Holy moly.
Well, Soul of the Abyss.
Yeah. And you can also get a cat watering can.
This is... we'll keep an eye on it, I guess.
Yeah. It looks different, unlike the other couple of games we saw.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Ooh. Well, there we go. That's the news. Let's talk about Moonstone Island. So
this game.
This is Pal World, but in the skies.
So let's talk.
Okay, let's intro it. So basically, Moonstone Island. It is what if Pokemon had farming, was in the sky on islands, and had no story. Is that a bit of a fair explanation of this game?
That's correct. They describe. Okay, so there's farming / cottagecore. You're it's the typical stuff. There's a little town, a central island with NPCs, including romance, of course. There is your standard monster collecting stuff where you go out, you catch monsters, you battle with each other, and they also described it as roguelike or roguelite, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that's the case.
Oh, did they? I never saw
what
it.
It actually does is every time you start, each map is just completely randomized.
It's
right? When you start a game,
generation. That's what it is.
yes, exactly. That's what it is. Right? It's not restarting a floor or anything like that. It's once you start your game, your map is randomized and procedurally generated, and that's it though. Nothing's going to change after that. So that's the game. Okay, what are your overall thoughts on it, Al? And I guess how far have you played? Let's talk about that.
Okay, so I've not played this for as long as I've played Coral Island, right? Like I'm not in 100 hours, but
how many games have you played as long as Coral Island? Not many.
That's true. I mean, half of the Pokemon games I've played that long, and Stardew Valley, and that's probably about it. Oh no, both newer Zeldas. I did them. Okay, so I have played. Steam says 6 hours in this game. Which I feel like is probably enough to get an idea of the game, but not having, you might have more thoughts on some things than me. But I've got a good idea of, I think, all of the main things, right? So I think my overall feelings about this game is I think it has potential, but is missing a bunch of things that would make me.
Go ahead.
I really like a lot of the creature designs. I really like the setting. I think the Sky Island setting is fun, but the way that it sets up exploration makes the exploration not fun. Not because traversal isn't fun. Traversal is fine, but because it can't decide whether it wants you to go out and explore and be a nomad, or whether you want to actually have a base and keep coming back to the island. It wants you to do both, and it means that neither of them works particularly well.
Yep. So, okay, I just checked 37 hours.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yes, I am in the fall season out of year one, because there's, of course, farming games, right? So there's different seasons. I've had plenty of time to reflect on it, and I think I didn't explore every nook and cranny in my map, but I have covered almost all 4 corners. Like, I've uncovered a good chunk of it.
Nice.
And I want to like this game so much. There are things I love about this game. The phrase that keeps coming to my mind is that this game is much less than the sum of its parts. Because I think that when I look and talk about each individual, or lots of different individual elements, I think there's a lot of cool things. So like, okay, let's talk about the setting. The island thing, I think, is a good idea. The art style, a little Stardew-esque, a little cuter maybe, but it's fine. Yeah. I think it's okay.
I think it's maybe more kind of like Pokemon-esque from the GBA sort of style.
Yeah, you could say that, right? They say they're Studio Ghibli inspired, and you can see that from the opening animation. I don't think that translates very well to the actual game. No. But it still has that kind of cutesy vibe, or whatever you want to call it. The monster designs are great. I agree with you there. A lot of them are fantastic. Shout out to Fishbow. It's a fish in a bowl with legs. The bowl has legs, not the fish.
I also love this one. This one that I can't remember its name because I've not caught one, but it's literally just a tree trunk that follows you around and spins around.
Yeah, it's called Long Log.
The
one that looks like Wispy Woods.
Perfect.
The one that looks like Wispy Woods. Yep. There's some good ones. Gosh, there's Wormer, which is just a worm in an apple. Yep.
Like there's some great designs. I love them. They're fantastic.
There's some fantastic designs. Octopup. I don't know why they put a dog head on an octopus with a pirate bandana, but it's there. It works. This is the game with the rabbit lamp. I forget the name, but that's a creature. It's a lamp with rabbit ears, like a tall floor lamp, not a table lamp.
Obviously.
So like, so yeah, a lot of the designs are great. The monsters. I don't know where to start tackling this game. Okay, no. Let's start chronological. Let's start with the very beginning. Right.
Yeah,
The
it's a pretty good
premise
place to
is
start.
you're gonna be. Yeah, right. Okay. So the premise is you're training to become a quote unquote alchemist. There's not much context as to what that means. You're just gonna be one.
And I'll be honest, I'm still not sure what that means now.
That is correct. I will get to that, but I do not know that either. And so you have to go off for a year on your own. And so the initial hour-ish or so is a tutorial that explains some of the farming mechanics and some of the creature battle capture mechanics, right? So the farming is pretty simple. You hoe your land, you plant a seed, water it daily, and it grows. The unique thing about Moonstone, well, I know, not unique, completely unique, but different from, say, Stardew, is that a lot of your seeds are found from foraging on the different Sky Islands. In fact, you have to find them first, then sell them to the shop in town, and they'll start growing them or propagating them or whatever, so you can buy more seeds from in town. But I don't think I've ever actually bought a seed in town because you can find enough of those seeds out in the Sky Islands.
Yeah, and I also like the farming aspect of it is I think pretty minimized, right? Like it's not you're not expected to do farming, right? You can,
right,
but you can also just not do it.
Absolutely. Right. That's definitely a part of it, where the farming aspect of it is, or even the whole cottage core side of it, the farming, the NPCs interactions, all of that I think is more to support the creature collecting part of it, right?
And the exploration part of it. I think those two,
and the exploration. Yes, that's right.
It's an exploration creature collection game. That's what it is, and everything else just exists to emphasize that.
Because the crops you grow, they're not your usual carrots, turnips, whatever. They're different fantasy plants that will buff your monsters or protect you from environmental hazards or give you effects that help you explore better, let you see more at night, see certain things on the map, etc., right? That's kind of what they're really for. I don't think I've sold like maybe one or two crops for a mission, but they're not like your source of income, really. You can get much more just from exploring.
And very fast. Like if you do like the dungeons and stuff like that, you can make thousands very quickly. And there's not a huge amount that's like really expensive. Your upgrades cost a few thousand. But I feel like with most of that, you don't need to do it. Like, I don't feel, because that sort of aspect, as you say, of the not just the farming, but the like mining and all that stuff, it's minimized. I don't really feel like I have to upgrade any of the tools. And so I'm sitting here going, I don't really know what I'm doing with all this money. Yeah.
So, no, I agree with you for sure on that. Later on, you do realize you have to. There are like certain crops and maybe rocks, I could be mistaken, that you can't break unless you have higher level tools. At least crops. I know that there were certain crops I couldn't harvest. At the very least, the better tools, because you have a stamina system in this game. And it is important because a lot of stamina is consumed as you're flying between the islands. And if your stamina is your character's quote-unquote health, if you lose all your stamina, you collapse for the day, and not necessarily progress, but the day just ends and anything you had planned for.
Yeah.
So there is definitely a benefit from upgrading the tools because they consume less stamina, a lot of them. But it's not necessary to, say, go to the max level. I don't have the max level for most, because there's no real benefit aside from more stamina.
The stamina's a fair point. Because like it is, that's kind of, I feel like that's the main resource I'm missing at this point is more stamina. You can increase it if you do the dungeons and stuff like that. But that I think is my main thing. But then even then, it's still not particularly hard because like the stone fruit, you use, it gives you a lot of extra stamina and you can get them quite easily. So even then, it doesn't feel like I need to do any of that.
Right, yeah. Nothing feels super mandatory. Well, the majority of it, let's say, right? Because there are, so the big quote unquote progression markers or whatever you want to call it. There are these called quote unquote temples. There's 4 of them, one for each season, one representing a different element. And for what I don't know why you're told you should go clear those temples. I don't understand why.
I think because you're an alchemist.
Yes. Well, okay, you're right. Yes, and I don't know what that means or how it's related, but that's why.
So it seems to be. I think if I'm understanding it correctly, it just means you can craft. I think that's what alchemy means here.
I think so. Well, one of the big things is you can tame the spirits, right? Not other people can. For whatever reason, just alchemists are the ones who deal with the spirits.
Yeah, but I think that's a second-hand thing. I think the main thing about alchemy is the crafting, right? Because like when I talked to Zed at one point, and he was like, "Oh, how do you think up more alchemist? What was the word? Crafting recipes." And so that was the point where I was like, "Oh, I think this is what they mean. Like I'm the one who crafts things." Which makes sense. Okay. I think. Yeah. Except that there's a carpenter. There's a carpenter in the village.
Yeah. Well, I mean, either way, like, whatever the reason, going to the temples is one of your big check marks on your to-do list for each season.
Yeah.
And to progress through the temples, there's these little altars where you have to place certain items, which are found through exploring, gathering, or crafting stuff from each season and placing it on the temples. And once you do that, you fight an enemy, and then there's this like a second or third different little altar where you have to put different items, and you just do it 2 or 3 times. You repeat that cycle, and then you fight a boss at the very end. That's it for clearing the temple. Now, early on, I can't remember if it's in spring or first in. One of the items you require is it involves a different mechanic from the game, an important one called the Spirit Barn. Have you unlocked that yet, Al?
I literally unlocked it today.
Okay, well, there you go. So, oh gosh, this is one of my biggest gripes with the creature collecting, which we'll get into a little more in detail, but the Spirit Barn, you can house several spirits in there, as the name would imply, like animals or livestock. Now, you have to feed them to maintain them happy so they don't run away, but in return, they will also generate little drops depending on their type. Like you get, how to say, like sea glass and a flame. I don't remember. There's just a little elemental item from each creature. It's not daily. It's kind of randomized, I think. But you have to feed them, keep them happy. And then those drops that you get, you use them for other crafting recipes or progression. And so, I'm talking about this in terms of progression and upgrades because we started with the tools. Some of the most important tools are actually found through the temples. So I think the first most important tool would be the glider, because you're flying between islands. You start off with a balloon because you had a broom and it broke, so you have to use a balloon in the meantime. But then eventually you can save enough resources to craft a better broom that you can use. And then eventually you can craft a glider, which lets you fly really far, really fast, and consuming not that much stamina, which is essential to the traveling between the Sky Islands.
As a side note, I saw this fantastic post on Steam where someone was like, this is a petition to remove the glider because it makes the game too easy. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? No.
What?
It was absolutely bizarre suggestion. Like, that's of all the things that are wrong with this game, it is not, it's too easy to travel between islands.
No. That's wild.
Right?
That is absolutely wild. But yeah, some of the other temples will give you other really helpful items. Like when I think it's the Summer Temple, when I beat it, you get a pair of, flippers or something like that let you actually swim in water and traverse waterfalls. Again, very helpful for exploring, and that's kind of the emphasis of the game. So there's definitely incentive for you to clear the temples just for that alone, seeing what special item. So yeah, the problem with my game, like all of the I've described so far, is fine. The problem is, like, that's kind of it to the game. You go around the different islands. There's islands for each type, right? There's lightning islands, fire islands, water islands, earth islands, and they have the corresponding spirits and all that. You can find mines on each island that you can go down, dig up ore. There's these dungeons that Al mentioned. They're not temples. They're different little mini, I don't want to call them mini dungeons. They're just these dungeons where you navigate around, like Zelda-esque dungeons where you have to pass these obstacles. There will be wild spirits that you have to battle in there, little puzzles, warp puzzles, and things like that. Once you clear each dungeon, you get a stamina boost, which is helpful. There's a good number of them. I think like 30 dungeons on the whole map, so you can get a good chunk of stamina through that.
Yeah, and they're fine. They're not particularly challenging. Like there's always a hidden chest that gives you a little bit of a challenge, but once you know what you're looking for, they're pretty easy to get.
Yep, absolutely. And so that's that's I think the main loop of the game, like going out, seeing these islands, seeing what spirits you can find, trying to clear these little dungeons and temples. But that's kind of it, unfortunately. There's gosh, how many? I think 74 spirits in the game. Not a huge amount, not insignificant either, but like
it's decent. It's decent, but not decent, amazing.
Right? Exactly, right? So while the designs are great, there's kind of a small pool because there's 8 types of spirits, right? So 74 divided by 8 roughly is 9-ish. Is that right now? 9 spirits per type? That's what it would be on average.
Sure.
So it's yeah. So and the worst part is, like, you're using your spirits to battle through these other spirits, but you're not doing much else with them, to be honest. Like, they don't evolve like in Pokemon or a lot of other creature collectors.
Yeah.
They generate the stuff in the spirit barn, but that's kind of it. They don't help you with obstacles. I mean, they have some abilities that give you boosts for exploring and stuff like that, but they're not really clearing obstacles or anything like that, just for battles, pretty much.
Yeah. There is, like, there's a few things, as you say, like, you know, Wormer. It's confusing because there's no R in the middle. It's just at the end. Wormer.
Yep.
So I think, anyway,
Wormer.
whatever.
Yep.
Wormer. It will, like, basically it will mow down the grass as you're walking, so it's like helpful for that. But I've not seen a huge number of other ones like that. Those sorts of things would be more fun, as you say. Like actually having some sort of story to go along with it would be fun. Weirdly, I actually kind of like the battles in this game, despite saying earlier that I don't like turn-based battles anymore.
Okay, let's talk about that, because that's one of the highlights for me too.
Just before we do, as fun as that is, like, there's nothing to do with there's no other people to battle, right? You're only battling wild spirits, which is fine.
Yep.
But then they could absolutely have done something else with that, but they didn't.
Right.
But yeah, okay, let's talk about it. So it's a card-based. It's a deck-based battling, turn-based.
Very different from your standard Pokemon clone.
I will say it's similar to one thing, and that is Ooblets.
Yeah?
So it's very similar to Ooblets.
Oh, really? Okay, I haven't played Ooblets, so I didn't know that. Huh.
So,
okay.
It's not as cheesy because Ooblets is dance-based as well, and all the cards are dance moves. But it's basically the same sort of thing. Each of your creatures has a number of cards, and you have a deck based on all of those cards, and you have a certain amount of stamina or
plays.
stuff
stamina,
that you can do. I can't whatever, doesn't matter. You know what I mean. A certain amount that you can do in each thing, and all of the cards have different aspects. Some of them attack, some of them remove
buffs,
stuff like that. And then there's other things like reshuffling cards and getting a new hand. That's basically how Ooblets works as well. So it's basically the same sort of thing, which is good, because I actually think it's quite fun.
I do too. I think it's because the fact that you have 3 monsters on your team, and that can create a variety, like, you know, each, depending on your team composition, it can feel pretty different how you're playing, right?
And just to clarify for listeners, those 3 are all out at the same time. So it's not it's essentially triple battle, but you're sometimes against one or two rather than three, but you will generally always have three, and your hand is based of cards from all of the creatures, but sometimes you might end up with only cards from one, which also I think adds to the interest in how that works.
It is, yeah, because if one of your monsters faints in battle, their cards are removed from your deck, or if they're stunned, because you can like stun monsters in the game, the cards you can draw the cards, but you can't use them. They'll have a big X over them because the monster's incapacitated.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yeah, that is an interesting. Yeah, you're right. It's I like the system overall. I think it can get a bit difficult at times, to be honest. Like, I don't know how many poison islands you've run into, Al.
just
the
one, and that was terrifying.
It is poison, because obviously, as you would imagine, the poison types can poison your enemies, right?
It kills you so quickly.
Because the interesting is, the debuffs stack, and they matter how much it stacks, right?
Yeah.
So if you have 2 things of poison, it's only going to do like 2 damage. But if you have 10 or 15, it'll do that much damage. And it just drops once per turn. So that poison will be sticking around for a while.
Yeah.
That said, you can do the same to your opponents, but it's still tricky. Because some of them can be quite defensive or have a lot of HP.
Well, so that's an interesting thing. I actually really like what they did with attack and defense here, where each attack has a certain amount of attack that it will deal, like a certain amount of damage it will deal. And each of your creatures has a defense. And the way that it works is if the attack is greater than the defense, you get the difference damage attack. So if your defense is 4 and the attack is 7, you will get 3 damage done to you. But you can increase and decrease that defense.
Right, you can reduce that shield.
Yeah, so if you have, say, like 3 cards, one of them debuffs the defense by 2, and the other 2 are tackles and they do 7 damage. You always want to make sure that you do the debuff first and then the 2 tackles, because you'll essentially do 4 more damage in that turn.
Yep.
And I really like how it works. It makes because in Pokemon the problem is the attack and defense stats are so invisible that if you haven't experienced the Pokemon before, or you're against, like, you can just have no idea what you're up against. Whereas whereas in here, if you come across a strong Pokemon, it's so visibly strong because you go into it and you're like, oh, you have a defense of 10. None of my attacks will do any damage to you whatsoever until I start to bring that defense down. And I think that's really fun because it makes it so visible, and it can make the boss battles more terrifying to start with. And
absolutely, because the bosses all have the ability, or no, the guardian. Sorry, so each of the little dungeons have a robot called the guardian that you have to beat at the end.
Yeah.
And they have the ability of gaining a shield every turn, buffing the defense every turn. It's wild,
which is terrifying because if you're not debuffing that defense, you're doing 0 damage. Like you gotta get that down. And meanwhile, while you're getting that down, it's attacking you.
Yep. Because it can do all the same things back to you. It can lower your defense and all that good stuff. And one other element to that whole defense that I think makes it fun is when you get the defense down to 0, they get stunned for a turn, where they can't act. Is
that how the stun works? I never quite figured it out. I don't think I'd done enough to be like, this is definitely how that works. That explains it, because it seemed kind of random to me, but that would make sense. I hadn't.
Yeah, you have to bash them enough times. So there's this the card called Bash, which is a standard every monster has. That's the standard defense debuff, right? So like you remove 3-4 defense, and once you get them to 0, they enter the stun state where you can do bonus damage. You do not only do your full damage, but like 1.5 times the damage.
And they can't, and then they're stunned for the next turn, so they can't do anything that turn.
That is correct. So you get like, if you time it right, you can really get like 2 turns of just wailing on them.
Well, especially if you use a rage at the right time, because that doubles the damage that you can do. So it's like you've got loads of really fun strategies.
Yeah, and there's type advantage, because the types are interesting because it took me a minute to figure out. But so there's, like I said, there's 8 types, and each one has a basic weakness. For instance, all the fire spirits are weak to water, right? And so that means two things. One, water moves do extra damage, and water moves by default any water move will start debuffing the defense, which is a nice little bonus, right? So if you're going to a fire island, okay, I'm just going to load up on a team of water spirits and I can do pretty okay. But the interesting aspect is every spirit actually has two weaknesses. One is the standard one, like fire is weak to water, but the other one I think is just randomized, because I've had two spirits, I've caught two of the same one, and they'll have different weaknesses.
They seem to have different types. So I had two cool slimes which had different types.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think you're right. I think it is random that.
Yeah. And so all of this together, these are lots of elements I think does make for a very fun battle system, right? Because there's a lot like Pokemon, right? You know what your Pokemon does. You're going to fight the same 5 types of Pokemon in a route. So a lot of the battles are going to be very repetitive, very samey, right? In this game, it can be wildly different every day depending on what team you bring, what island you're going to, and stuff like that, right? And again, because it's a card deck based thing, like each hand you get is also going to be different, right? You can't do the same move every turn. You don't know what's going to be on your next turn most of the time.
I think that's why I like the card based battle systems for turn based, because it forces you to do, like, you can't do the same thing over and over, so it makes you do different strategies, which I'm generally not a fan of when games make you do something when something else would just be better to do. But in this case, it's part of the strategy. That's like how it works, which means that it can be quite interesting. And sometimes you just have a terrible hand and oh no, all of my cards are for that one that's stunned. There's nothing I can do. I will say with the types, I don't know whether this is just because of how little I've played it, right? 6 hours, whatever. But I feel like the types is not as visible as the other parts of the game. Like, obviously the type that your attack is very visible, but I've still not figured out how to figure out the other one unless I already know about that creature.
Yeah, no, the only thing I see is the indicator. So when you are targeting a enemy spirit, it'll show you an indicator if it's weak to that type.
Oh, I'd missed that indicator. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening on the screen, so it's easy to miss these random little icons.
Yeah, it's like a big red circle that'll show up when you're targeting it. But again, it has to be, like, if you're attacking a fire one, you have to be using a water type for the indicator to show up, right? Because a lot of the spirits have quote unquote normal types.
So it's just going to show when you're super effective for use.
That's correct.
For lack of a better term.
Right.
Let's talk about catching them, because obviously it's so you go in and instead of attacking them, you feed them. And then if you feed them enough, it fills up their heart meter, and then you have a chance that they're going to tame them. And that's it. And you might have to do that multiple times. And if it's like too strong, you can't tame it, because you can only tame up to a certain level until you upgrade. And you can't tame bosses. Is that about it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. When you beat bosses, they will spawn in the wild later for you to be able to tame them.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I will say I did get, while talking about bosses, is it not possible to run from boss battles? Because I tried in one of them and it said you can't run. And I'm like, but I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I was like, in my first dungeon.
You're locked in.
And that feels to me a really weird decision to make. Like,
yeah, it's brutal, because the autosave system works. You can't roll that back.
No. You can get a retreat card, which I presume works in boss battles.
I haven't tried it. I would hope it works.
I haven't either, because I've not been in that situation since I got a card.
Yeah.
Because I know what I'm doing now, and I'm less likely to die. Part of the problem was it was my first boss battle, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I was way under-leveled. But it felt a little bit mean to not let you run from a boss battle, because...
Oh, yeah. No, it's brutal.
It was like,
especially like
7 levels above me at this point. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. No, it can be brutal, especially against some of those poison bosses. Like, oh gosh, I'm gonna die. I cannot heal fast enough. It can be brutal, absolutely. But But to go back to the taming, and that's what they call it, your feet, right? So this goes back to the farming, how it's just supporting the exploration and the creature collecting, because that's one of the big things for farming, right? Like you said, you can't ignore it, but one of the reasons I am farming, I want to grow lots of crops that can help me tame the different spirits. And once you progress through the seasons, you'll see different crops have different attributes. Each season, there's all the crops are completely swapped out. And so later season, you'll find more that heal more, restore more stamina, or be able to tame more.
Which I think is actually quite nice because so one of the ores you get in the game that is required for so many things is Moonstone, hence the name.
Yep.
So it's basically you've got copper, iron, and Moonstone, and that I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else.
That's I haven't seen any other.
And the Moonstone, there's one Moonstone per island, and they respawn each season. So I think that's correct. It's quite fun the way they've done that, where every season you've got two reasons to go to all the islands you've been to before. One is to get the Moonstone, and the other is to get the crops that are new there. I think that's quite fun. It's not just like, here's one thing you need to do. It's like, here's multiple reasons why you might want to go and explore again.
Absolutely. That is, I think that's a good design. At first, the Moonstones feel very scarce, I won't lie.
Yeah.
But once you get the glider and can really go around, once you realize, they respawn every season, you start getting a good chunk of them. But I do think that's good design.
One thing I would say against that, though, is that I think this game really lacks a fast travel.
So there's the one. Okay,
there's one. You can once a day you can use a whistle to get back to the main island, but the problem is that once a day. It doesn't increase as you go on. You can't get more of it.
Right.
And it only takes you to one specific place.
Actually, at one point you do unlock a second one that you can place a beacon. You learn a recipe to craft a beacon to, or I can't remember what it is. You get some type of secondary fast travel to certain points that you can place a marker on, from what I recall.
Oh, do you? And can you do multiple of them?
I do not know. I do not remember. I don't know if I have to clear another temple or something to get it, or if it's just the one. I haven't really used it myself. So
I looking online, it looks like it's just a mark. It doesn't actually have fast travel.
I have to.
The feature easily allows you to find a location you have marked.
Because I know there's a beacon that will mark things, but there's also I believe it's in the work. I'll load up my game and see.
Because I wanted to check this before I did the podcast and complained about it. But I could not see anything about fast travel other than the whistle.
Let me look into that. Give me a second. I'll get back to that. But
because you do have the balloon and the broom and the glider, and they are progressively better at traveling. But it just feels like for a game that is really focused on going back and moving around, the fact that there's literally no other, as far as I can see, fast travel, I think just makes me less likely to want to do it. Like, you can create another home at different places, right? So you can have multiple tents and houses so you can go to sleep. But the problem is you have to go back to the main island anyway, because that's where you've probably put your barn, and you need to go in there to feed them all every day. So it's like you can't just go out and explore for a week and find a whole bunch of islands. You have to keep coming back. But then you have to then start your journey to where you were going again, all from scratch. You can't say, I'm going to... Even if it was just like one, and you had one, this is my fast travel beacon, and I'm going to go zoom back to the island and then zoom back here, I think it would massively improve the game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. My chest to see that. That is a big issue, because you want to travel a lot, and there's only certain hours in a day, right? But at the same time, there's this big issue I have of progression can get really tough later on because of the levels, right? The farther away your island is from your home island, the higher level the spirits, and they can get... And one of my biggest issues is that it feels forever to be able to... it takes forever to level up your spirits. There's no experience candies. There's no quick way of grinding up levels other than just going out and battling the different spirits. And that's a bummer because it really puts a roadblock in your exploration and being able to access. And it's trickier because, again, the different elemental aspects of it, right? So if you're going to a fire island, well, you want to bring some water spirits, but that means you're not training up these other poison or electric spirits that you need for different items. So I personally found that frustrating, just how that... I wish there was a way to level up your spirits better, right? Yeah. And it sucks because you have the spirit barn, but it doesn't actually level up your spirits or anything. It doesn't grow them in any way. It's just for generating those materials, those elemental materials.
Well, it's for generating those materials and also giving you more work to keep your spirits around. Because if you just have them in the what is it? There's the other building you can have them in. I can't remember what the name of it is.
The spirit center. Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's one of the most frustrating things.
You can put them in there and you never have to think about them again. So you put them in the barn and suddenly you have to pay attention to them every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not, but you have to do it because you want those elemental item drops.
Yeah.
What really kills me though is you have these three spots. You have your party, which you access through this little item into this little medallion that enters this little space inside where you can talk to your creatures or interact with them. There's the science center and there's the spirit barns, right? I wish I could access or I could go jump between them easily. Because, one, the science center isn't open 24/7. Mm-hmm. It's only when the guy is working there. So if it's after hours, well, too bad. You can't access your spirits there. And two, I can't, if I want to add a spirit to my party, I have to make sure there's space. I have to deposit it either in the science center or the spirit barn. And if I want to access spirit barn creatures, I have to go to my spirit barn. It's really annoying that you have to keep physically go back and forth between places to kind of manage.
Yeah.
That's yeah. And I'm trying to think here how to follow up to that.
I feel like we're now at the point where we're just like, and here's the thing that annoys me, and here's the thing that annoys me. We're getting to the little things. Like, for example, there's a bunch of weird control things that feel like they're just not ideal. Like, for example, some of the menus, the D-pad doesn't work. But some of them they do. It does. So it's like sometimes you have to go to the analog stick. But I don't want to use an analog stick in a menu. This is what the D-pad's for. Why are you not letting me use the D-pad? And it's like the focusing for the tools is a bit off sometimes. And weird things like the tool wheel. So the way that it works is your tools aren't in your inventory. You've got a tool wheel for them. I just feel like it's awkward. There's no... I like it when a lot of games recently have done, automatically switching of tools in some cases. That would be really nice if I could walk up to a rock and just use my tool and it would happen. I just, it just always feels a bit clunky. It's like, oh, now I need to change my tool. And it takes me a few seconds, and that's not ideal. At least in Stardew, when they're in your inventory, I have them all set up how I want them. Yep. So I know I just click left, and I'm at the right thing, right? Whereas every single time I'm changing, I'm holding down the right trigger, and I'm like, okay, where is my item on this tool wheel? I need to find it using the analog stick. It just feels a bit clunky. I don't hate it. It just stops me going super fast,
Yeah, I get you. And on that note, I think it's funny because they give you a little tutorial bit at the beginning, but there's a lot of stuff this game doesn't explain.
Yeah.
A lot in the battle, a lot in the controls. There's a lot of stuff I had to figure out. In fact, I didn't realize what you told me about the defense thing, where if the attack's greater than the defense, the damage is the difference. I didn't realize that was how it's calculated. I thought it was just a random number, basically.
Yeah. I noticed it when I did one below the number and it said it was blocked entirely. And I was like, ooh, interesting. I wonder if it's to do with this, and then did some testing and it turned out that, that's exactly what. Because, sometimes if you're not paying attention, it does sometimes feel like I pressed something that said 7 and some number went off and I didn't really notice what number it was. It wasn't 7. That's the only thing I can tell you is it definitely wasn't 7. It's funny. I don't hate this game. I think this game
Well,
has a lot of potential, as I said at the beginning, but I feel like
there's
it's
one.
a bit clunky
Yeah.
in some ways, and it's missing some stuff that would make me want to play it long term.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I agree. Right, because I've obviously I've enjoyed the game to be able to play this long. Right, but
Yeah, 40
I'm
hours isn't
reaching-
nothing.
Right, I'm reaching a point where I'm kind of it's failing me to keep me engaged. A big part of it is. Like I kind of joked earlier, I wish this game had a story. I'm not a story. I'm not asking for major writing or anything deep, but some kind of goal or progression. Because you have a little quest menu, and one of them's live on your own for a year, clear the temples. But I don't know why I'm doing them or why it matters.
The quest system is quite good, right? I like.
Yes, it is.
You get loads of quests.
Yep.
But yeah, it does feel a little bit like you've got them because you've got them, and it's like live on your own for a year, okay, because mum said so, right?
Yep.
Like, what's okay, fine, and it's like sure, fine, it's a life sim. The point is to live, but like I think this is what something like Stardew did really well. Is like here is your long term goal, right? Your long term, and it's like it says. Live on your own for a year, but we don't know what's going to happen at that point.
Yeah.
Like if we knew, because right at the beginning, at Stardew that at the 2-year mark, you're going to be judged. Like it makes it so clear. And but we don't know what this 1 year thing, is that going to be like a point where it goes right and now you're done, or is it and now here's another, like is it now live for 2 years on your own? Like what's going to happen then?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe I should play it just to see that, just to kind of finish out the year.
If you're already in fall, then you may as well.
Yeah, I'm almost there,
speed
right?
run the rest of the year.
yeah, you're not wrong. But it also gets a little harder because, like I said, the grinding gets tougher because there's more spirits, higher level spirits. I need to train up more water spirits to deal with the higher fire spirits, but then I need the electric spirits and whatnot. And it's one of the things I didn't complain about the types. There are 3 types. So like I said, there's 8 types total, but there are 3 types that are a little special. Psychic types will only appear on one island every night, and it's kind of random. You can take a potion to see where, but it's like this special weather called the Psychic Storm, and that's where they're going to spawn. And you don't know where it's going to be until you either happen to wander on the island during night, or you take the potion to see where it is. There are ice spirits, which will only spawn during winter, which is a pain because like poison spirits are weak to them. I'm trying to get through a poison temple.
Yeah.
I would have loved some ice spirits, but I don't get them. So that's annoying. And the third one, dark spirits. They are on the very outer edges of the map. They are all super high level, and okay, I can get that one. Like the late game challenge, sure, I can kind of get that. But it's still a little frustrating that I'm this far in and I don't 100% have all my tools, and so just lots of these little things adding up to make exploring get a little harder, a little grindier, and again, all for I don't know why. I don't feel like I have much of a direction, and it's frustrating because it's trying to blend the cottage core and the monster collecting, but it feels like it's going 2 different directions where it's really emphasizing exploration, but there's also, you can build your house, you can craft decorations, which is nice and all, but like,
what's the point?
You still have to, what's the point, right? What's the point? And you have to go gather resources of that. And how do you gather resources? You go exploring.
I think that's my thing. And I think the thing is, right, this game heavily emphasizes magic, right? Like you literally, if you create a new tent, it talks about opening a portal dimension, right? It literally uses that terminology to imply that something is happening here. And it's like, okay, great. You can create a portal dimension in a tent, but I can't then put that tent in my bag and take it with me. Why not? Like I don't understand. If we can have the magic to do these things, give me the like. I feel like it would do much better focusing on one or the other. And so either give us a fast travel to mean that we can go very quickly to where we were exploring and then come back really quickly, and you can do it that way, or give us the ability to carry the house that you want us to care about around with us, and then we're kind of a nomad explorer type thing. Like it feels like it wants to do both. And it can.
Yep. It's really, I mean, well, it's possible, but it's not doing well here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Actually,
that's fair.
yeah,
I shouldn't say it can't do both. I should
yeah.
say it isn't doing both well.
Okay. By the way, I found it. There's an item called the Warp Whistle Totem. I don't remember how I got it, but you can place you place the totem and you can warp to that spot instead of the goddess statue. So it's a different kind of fast travel. Yeah. But
right, okay.
That's still frustrating. That
so it doesn't
solve every
all
issue.
it does is it changes where you're warping to. It doesn't
That's
actually
correct.
change
Yes.
anything.
Uh-huh.
Not ideal.
No, certainly not.
So I guess that is slightly better, but realistically it doesn't make much difference because you've still not got the two-way warping.
Yeah,
If
I
you could
agree.
do it as well as and it gave you two different whistles and you did one to go to your totem and one to go to the main island, I think a lot of my problems around the exploring versus staying would be solved.
Yeah, I agree. Right, but something I don't think we mentioned, but is as vital to this is that like cottagecore games, it still has the time limit where if you're not in bed by 2 a.m., you get knocked out.
It's like, oh no, it's 1 a.m.
And
I better warp back to the island to then run to my bed.
Right,
Because of course I didn't put it right next to where you get the whistle from.
Of course, and that's what's frustrating because you can't. It takes time to get to the islands all the way out there. And then, day's done. You got to work back.
I think this is where to talk about like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I think it does that sort of aspect really well in that as you're exploring, you are unlocking warps as you go.
Yeah.
And so if you then decide to go and do something else, you've not lost all of your exploration because you can just warp back to there when you want to.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's missing. And it doesn't need to be loads of them. It can be just one that you put down and then you can come back. It doesn't need to be this massive thing.
I agree. And I'm just remembering, there are warps, but they're only between two islands. You can find these statues
that
will warp you to a different island.
Yeah.
But it is only between the two islands, right? So if you want to use either side, you have to get to one of those islands first.
It doesn't fix the problem. It just changes where the exploration is.
Yep. I agree. And we're focusing on all this exploration, monster collecting, because it's definitely, I think, the emphasis. But I still have gripes about the cottage core side of it, right? Like I said, it's frustrating because it's there, but it's so limited in scope. It feels like, like we mentioned, right? The farming. There's some crops that are valuable because you can, use them for exploration buffs, for healing your team, increasing recovering your stamina, et cetera, right? But it's not super mandatory otherwise, in your standard farming game. And there's this whole town with some facilities. Sometimes you'll use them, but by and large, you can ignore them because you can get most of what you need just from exploring.
It's good for making money. You can sell you sell stuff to the places there for more money than you would sell them in your shipping, which is always a fun.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, you're right.
But as we've said, money's not really that hard to come by in the game, which is fine. I like this, but.
And we haven't even touched on the characters because there's NPCs, and guess what? You can romance them because of course you can.
Yeah, I started doing that, but I just got bored.
Yeah, here's the frustrating part. Again, going with the story, I think a lot of that's kind of applicable to the characters because at least the characters I've engaged with, they don't have arcs per se, right? Like looking at Stardew, I think the benchmark that everyone kind of measures up to, right? A lot of the characters have story arcs of their own, right, where they grow or change a little and stuff like that, right? You get to know them better. Here, the characters aren't growing or have arcs. Some of them have interesting things to say because they explain some of the stuff of the world. Did you know we're in a post-apocalyptic setting, Al?
No, I did not. I did not know that. That's interesting.
It's not told you unless you go on dates with certain characters and they tell you about it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been on one date and then I went to do a second one and I accidentally stood them up because I forgot I needed to go to a specific place at a specific time and they weren't happy with me. So I stopped.
Yeah. And the relationship thing is weird because like I said, these stories you can only do from asking on dates. But if you actually start a relationship with someone, asking other people on dates will damage the relationship with your partner or whatever. So it feels weird to set it up in that way where I'm in a relationship with somebody and I've kind of pinned myself where I don't want to go on dates with other people, so I don't get to learn about them or the world or whatever. And also, it's especially weird because the person I'm dating, there's a limit to how many dates you can go with them. I've done that, so now I can't really do anything else with them. There's no marriage. There's nothing like that. Just saying hi every day. It's odd because, in other farming games, maybe they move in with you. They'll help you with your farming sometimes or something. But that's just kind of it. Again, kind of like the lack of a story with a big end goal. Relationships feel kind of the same. And I mean, I like the character. Now, her name's Freya. She's the blacksmith. She compliments my butt every day, and hey, that's nice. But that's kind of it.
Yeah. I don't. I think,
like you said, there's potential. So much potential here.
That's
this
the
game's
thing. It's a fun
right?
idea with a bunch of fun, interesting ideas in there. Some of them well implemented, some of them lacking. And overall, I feel like there's a lack of meshing together of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have hopes this game can be saved because I think it absolutely can, right? We need the orange season add a story update. But the groundwork's here. I think it just needs to refine a few of these things, like you said, just one warp totem that you can warp to back and forth every day.
Yeah,
that would help so much, right? And maybe add marriage. You're doing the relationship stuff. Go all in, give me bigger goals because, like I said, I'm in the fall season, 40 hours in. I kind of feel like I'm just kind of grinding along the same stuff, just getting through my daily chores, trying to explore a little bit every day. And even that gets hampered because the exploration limits or the level limits. But I think this stuff is still solvable. I really hope that we get some big updates from Moonstone Island. Maybe we can still see a great game come.
Yeah, agreed. Awesome.
All right.
Well,
I think I've said everything I need to say.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about it for an hour, so.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Fishbow is still great.
Yeah, I agree. There's if you don't take anything else from this episode, the monsters are good. They are good designs.
Go look down that list.
Fun.
Spend 10 minutes going down the list and enjoying the design.
And don't just look at the pictures. Go look at videos of them in game as well, because some of them have fantastic animation.
Yeah, they walk around, they do stuff. They're great. They're a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of them.
So thank you, Kevin, for joining me on this episode. Where can people find you on the internet?
Al. Well, thank you all for having me on. You can find me at Cooper Prez for my personal Twitter. You can find me at Sprider Squared if you want to see some of my art that I post here and there. I have been working on art. I haven't been posting it, but I won't get to that. Or perhaps of most interest to people, find me at the podcast called Rainbow Road Radio, a weekly show I do with our mutual friend Alex, where we talk about all things Mario. That is Rainbow Mario Pod Rainbow Road Pod. Oh my god! Well, Rainbow Road Radio Mario Podcast. Look that up, and you can find it wherever your podcasts are normally found. We have a Twitter account, Rainbow Mario Pod. I'm positive that's what it is. Like we talked about earlier, we just did an episode on Mario Superstar Saga. It was great game, great fun to talk about. This week we will do the in-depth discussion on the King of Kong and that entire saga. It's really interesting, and because again, that's real life stuff. That's actual people with actual stakes. So go take a listen to that. What about you, Al? Where do people find you?
Yeah, people can find me on the usual places, Twitter and on mastodon.scot. My username is thescotbot. You can find the podcast on Twitter and on Tumblr at thspod. You can find our website teeming with links, including a link to our feedback form at harvestseason.club. Another one of those links is also a link to our Patreon. You can come and join in the conversation on our Slack if you support us there. You can also get extra episodes of the podcast, The Greenhouse. We have one that hopefully should already be out by the time this episode comes out, with us talking about another creature collection game, Pal World.
One that neither of us have played.
Which that's exactly what you want, right? You want people to talk about something they haven't played. So yeah, come listen to that.
You can tell them what it is, or they could probably guess.
I did say
Johnny, listen to it.
I did say Power World. You might just have missed me saying.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
Power World.
Well, Johnny,
just in case people missed
go
it.
listen to our opinions that we have no authority or experience on.
Yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you, Kevin, again for joining me.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. And until next time, have a good harvest. The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Right.
Yep.
I'm recording locally.
I'm also recording locally. Waveforms are forming.
Whoa, you got very close to the mic there.
Okay.
Hello.